All right, guys, so this is part 2 of that video. Hope you enjoy it. Now, remember I said I think I might have had a bolt at home? I did not. Now, the problem is this bolt has that section there that's not threaded, and this is only going through a flat here. So I do have a little bit. It may be just enough, but I don't want to take a chance. So I have these 3 heavy washers that I'm just sticking on there. And it'll be fine, especially in this spot. It'll be absolutely fine. But like I said, I didn't want to have to do it back there, further back on this beam, because if I did that, then I wasn't sure that the bolt wouldn't be hanging down too low. All right. There we're good. I had already tightened up all the other bolts, so we're all good with that. Let me just double check them. Everything's tight. So we're good with that. All right. Now what we need to do is we need to tighten up the mount bolts. Like this one here and that one behind. This one here is a 19. Sorry if I wasn't talking loud enough. This one here is a 19. Oh, hello. See, I'm not walking under the camera. The camera's in my way. Okay, so that one's good. Now the one in the back is a little more difficult because of its location. It's back there. See if I can put the light somewhere where it's not in your way and you can actually see. Now for this one, I will come through the side, through here, to get in there to tighten that one up. Let's see. It's still too dark. Is that helpful? Yeah, you can see it there. All right, and that one is a 17, and the nut on the backside is captured, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. Now for this one, I'm coming in from the side where the tie rod sticks out. Should have been able to see that, and that should be good. All right, so let's get the axles in place. Let me dig out what I need to, and then we're going to go from there. Now on this side uses a half shaft, and actually this booty is a little dented up. Let me straighten that out. Hang on a second. Actually, let me show you this. So this actually goes over the snout of where the seal comes out. So this protects the seal. All I'm doing is sticking a screwdriver in here, and I'm gonna work it on out. Basically, you've got to get it back round again. Let's see. A small pry bar might help with this. Hang on one second. All right, so I grab a small pry bar. I'm going to try to get this thing to work its way up. Problem is everything's moving. I'm going to stick this into a vise. I gotta say one thing, this is a hefty axle shaft for this size car. I mean, that's like truck axle size. Just look at the size of that compared to my hand here. That's pretty massive. It's got to be like 24 millimeters roughly. Let's see. This is a 30 millimeter socket. So, it's a pretty substantial size. Especially for just a front wheel drive car that's naturally aspirated. All right, hang on a second. Let's put this in a vise. All right, now let's try it. and it's being held, it should help me. Alright, that's pretty darn close. Pretty close. Close enough. Alright, let's jump over here again. And then we're going to insert that axle in place. I think we got the. Yep. All right. So this axle has this shaft and a carrier bearing, so you got to be mindful of that. Now the carrier bearings on these things are indexed. So let me get my light. They are indexed, so you want to make sure you're getting them in the right position. I know you can't see what I'm seeing, but I can see it, and it's really all that matters. And while you're installing this too, be careful so you don't hit the axle seal. You don't want to hit and damage the axle seal. I'll just show you real quick. It's going into the seal there. And this end, this plate is indexed. So it's in the right orientation right now, but it's got to go fully in. All right. Leave you there. There it is. Okay. It's now in place. All right. So what I'm going to do is, let me get the bolts caught for that. There's really no way for me to film that. I'm gonna get the bolts caught for that, and then we're gonna put the suspension together on this side. Alrighty, so I got that tightened up. So now we're gonna install all of this. As you see, I have a ratchet strap going back. Basically, I pulled this whole assembly back to keep it out of my way. Now, there wasn't an insane amount of tension on it or anything, just enough to keep it out of my way, so it makes life easier when working on things. Especially because this side has that longer axle shaft. I may have to do that on the other side to get everything caught. So now I basically just get the axle back through the hole, and then I'm going to pull down on the lower control arm so I can get the ball joint caught. So right now all I'm doing is getting the axle shaft to go through the hub. You see it's appearing through the hub now, right up there. So now I should have enough movement to get these, to get the lower ball joint caught, like that. So now when we get the hardware for this, we're going to bolt that up. We have one bolt. Simple enough, and 2 nuts. Everything's a 17. axle nut. As you can tell by looking at these rotors, this thing was parked for a while after she blew the clutch initially. That's like down here, that's like 6 months worth of sitting. I'll do that. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the nut in for the axle. Okay, so now it's bottomed out because we're going to still put a torque wrench on that. Let's move to the other side. I'm going to show you how to install the axle. And what I'm going to probably do on this side is put that ratchet strap on there to pull that whole assembly back a bit, because that'll keep it out of your way while you're trying to install an axle. A lot of times I'll go to the lift arm. You're using a floor jack and jack stands, go to a jack stand. But on this one, I'm actually just going to a rear control arm. Because like I said, I'm not putting an incredible amount of pressure on it. The only thing I'm trying to achieve is moving it out of the way. It's not a big heavy-duty ratchet strap or anything. It's just, it's a basic one, so there's not a heck of a lot of tension on it. All right, let's get the axle in place. Let me lower this down here. It's up too high. All right, so where are you guys? So there is the hole where the axle shaft goes in. Let me see if I can get you in a spot where you can actually see what I'm doing. That's about the best we're going to do. All right. So here is the axle shaft. I'm going to have the opening in the clip, as you can see the clip right there. I'm going to have the opening in the clip up top at the 12 o'clock position. There it is, and it's in. How difficult was that? It wasn't. I always find you put it at a 12 o'clock position, or somewhere in between like the 3 and 9 o'clock position where the opening's up top. Anywhere between that, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, something in that range, preferably 12, it'll go right in. All right, so now on this side, it's going to be reverse procedure to install. I pulled the sway bar end link out on this side because I was having a dickens of a time getting this axle out initially. So I just did that to give myself a little more wiggle room. I'm not going to show you putting this whole side together because it's exactly like the other side. All right, so let's torque these wheels. Now, I've gone through this before. How do you torque that? Take something, stick it in the rotor like that. Good screwdriver works. See that? Works perfectly fine. Move on to this side. Obviously this side's going to spin in reverse. These things get torqued to 215 foot-pounds, so it's quite a bit. All right. So with that out of the way, I actually have to go look at another vehicle. So once again, we're going to pause this for a bit, and I got to go look at something else. Maybe I'll make a video on it, depends. Real quick before I forget, I always tell you guys this, but back off on your torque wrenches. trying to hold it down with my left arm while I do this. But you get the general idea. Bring it all the way down to 0. Make your torque wrench last a long time, whether it's a cheap one or an expensive one. Oh, and if your torque wrench is one of the new ones, the tech type wrenches that is digital, has batteries in it, take the batteries out after every single use, because batteries can leach out the material inside, whatever it is, and it'll create corrosion. You can actually ruin your torque wrench that way. So always take the batteries out. It'll make them last a lot longer. Okay, so the next step in this ongoing saga I got here is we got to take this drain plug, or the fill plug rather, off. And let me actually get a ratchet. I don't have a ratchet here. Hang on 1 second. All right, so this is a 24 millimeter or a 15/16. Now I had drained the fluid out because I had taken the axles out. And when you take the axles out, you're better off draining the fluid, because otherwise fluid spills on either side. And you're better off waiting on filling it until you have the axles in place. So now I actually had to look up the specification to find out how much fluid it takes, because either it takes a specified amount or it tells you to fill till it starts coming out the bottom of the hole. But let me find out for certain. I'll be right back. All right, so the specification for this thing is 0 millimeters, which means level with the fill hole, and to 5 millimeters below it. So basically we're going to fill it up till it comes out, and that should be full. Now, this takes GL5, so I have GL5 in bulk in a little 5-gallon container. Now, somebody had mistakenly said, oh, why do you use bulk oil? All it is used oil that's been recycled. No, it's not. So I don't know wherever you're getting that information from. Completely wrong. All right, so basically this is non-eventful. All I'm doing is filling it up. So let's get it filled up and then we'll go from there. I know you can't really see me, but that's the bucket and there's the pump. Just pumping it in. That's all I'm doing. All right, there you see it's draining out. Basically, I'm gonna let it level out. Once it levels out, then we're gonna put the fill plug back in. All right, so that's dripped out good enough for now. Or good enough for me, I should say, for now. That's how it's gonna be. So put the fill plug back in. Tighten it up. I mean, I can feel it just stop there. A little more. There, so you don't have to go bananas, you don't have to go crazy. And wipe off the residual. Okay, so now let's let it down. I didn't show you absolutely everything. Right here, I hope the clutch fluid line up. Basically, it's like a, it's like a brake line, and the ground strap. I didn't show you that, but now up top, I got to put the upper bolts in, and then the battery tray in that, and we should be done. I got to bleed the clutch out still too. Okay, so I have two 17 millimeter headed bolts already in there, and I have two 14s that are already in there. The problem is they're very difficult to see. So let me see what I can do here. What do I do with my ratchet? That's the biggest problem about doing stuff like this, is you tend to forget where you put stuff. Hang on a second, I'll go find what I'm looking for. All right. So we have a 17 there. We have a 17 under here. And we have two 14s down there. Very difficult to see, but they are down there. You can actually just see the head of one of them. So I think I can get, I'm going to need a universal to do this. I think if I remember correctly, yeah, actually, when I went to go take this out, those two bolts were still up on the cowl. They were never installed. This extension's too long. Hang on a second. Let me go get the right length extension. Hang on. Hey, I'm back. Okay. Move the wiring harness out of the way. Hopefully I can get in there. That one's in. This bottom one is really at a rough angle. I'm going to have to go with a chrome socket, I think, in order to get it in place. I mean, I could screw it in with my fingers. The problem is the area that it goes in is such a shallow point that you got to go at an extreme angle. But if I could screw it in all the way by hand, then I might be able to just use a gear wrench. I can't actually use a gear wrench for the final tightening, but all right. It's in. Can you actually see that? I think you could. I'm not sure. Let's see. So here's a 14. Nah, ain't gonna work. All right. Maybe this will go in there now. Yep. Okay. Good and tight. German torque spec on a Japanese car. All right, so now with that all said and done, oh, hang on a second, there's something going on out here. Let me check it out. It was just somebody picking up their car and they were having a little bit of an argument on the phone. So, not a big deal, doesn't concern me. I'm not too concerned. All right, so there's one plug here for, I guess, what's a reverse light switch. Plug that in. And we'll catch that wire where it's supposed to go. And then the shift linkage, gotta get that in place. Oh, this should be self-explanatory when it goes back in. So, all right, unfortunately you're definitely not gonna be able to see this with me doing this, and you're going to be in my way with me trying to do it. So let me get it caught. You can see it down there, but let me get caught what I can get caught, and then I'll show you again. All right, so the shift linkage is in place. Basically, I had to get those cables caught, and then there's locking clips on there that are very similar to like brake lines, where flex line has a bracket holding it in place. Very similar. Now we get the factory little cotter pins through the shifter mechanism to hold everything in place. So there you see it looks like that, and if you look back there you can see what I'm talking about, that clip that latches over and grabs the cable itself. Alright, so now let's put the starter in. And I explained to you about these starters before, how especially up north vehicles you gotta be careful because the snout of them can rot in place and you'll have a dickens of a time getting these things out. But luckily, this being a down south car, even just slight playing with it, they kind of bind up. There we go. Get the two 14s in place. That's a 14 millimeter headed bolt. That doesn't mean it's a 14 millimeter bolt. It's probably an 8 millimeter bolt, if I had to venture a guess, with a 14 millimeter head. Now you see I didn't tighten it up fully. kind of staggered it a little bit as I was getting it together. Because I've seen people snap ears off of things that are 2-bolt. And I've done it on thermostat housings, you know, way back in the day, like on old GMs, where it has the 2 bolts holding the thermostat housing down to the manifold, and I've actually snapped it off. So, let's see, what's what here? This is ground, this is positive, this is positive here. Okay. Here's the trigger wire that I just put in. Now the stud here on the starter, be gentle with those when you tighten them up, because I've seen people over tighten them and snap them right off. So that's a 12. I don't know if I have a 12 wrench. I think I do. I'm pretty sure I have a 12 socket here because that's how I got it off. Like I said, just be gentle with it. You don't have to go nuts. Okay. Pull the booty down in place so it sits nicely like that. Yeah, so we're getting there. So I think there is one more piece to the puzzle here. A lower battery tray. I don't know what this must be, an amp cable or something here that's interfering with everything. Yeah. So we're gonna have, oh no, this goes over here. That's going to go over there. So that means this is going to bolt up over here. All right, let's get this in place. Now this, I can't stand aftermarket radio stuff. I really hate it. It drives me crazy, this stuff. Because it just interferes with everything when you're working on it. So there's 4 12s that hold this battery tray in place. Actually, these I think are 8 125s. Those might be 10 125s. So these are 12 millimeter head, but like I said, I believe it's a 12 millimeter thread, 12 millimeter shank size. And this we're going to zippy zap in place. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so now this cable I'm not putting underneath anything, that's for sure. Let's see, this is probably, yeah, this goes right here. So that's a little 10. And I do remember, I gotta look over everything underneath because I know there's one little 10 millimeter that I have to put in place underneath. Usually what I do is when I have the air box out like this, I take it and I dump out any of the debris that's in it. I'm not going to go crazy doing it, but try to get out when I can. All right, let's zip these out of that device. Out of the way. That tube is going to go in here. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I actually haven't looked at the camera in a while. No, you actually, well, I think you can see some of it. Let me back you up a little bit. Okay. Sorry if you didn't get to see all of that. All right, so that's in place. Let's see. So we got to put the rest of this air box in place, and also this battery is shot that came with the car. And also it didn't have a lower tray. There's supposed to be like a lower tray that goes in there. It wasn't there. Oh no, wait, it was there. I'm sorry, it wasn't there. The hold down wasn't there. My bad. All right, so now get all of this in place. Tighten that up. Put the wiring in for the mass air. All right. Here is the base, but now here's the thing. I think I'm going to want to bleed the brake, bleed the clutch first before I go any further, because it just adds to everything in the way. Because the bleeder is right down there under the starter. See it? So what we're going to do is I actually have inside I have a depressor. Well, it was a depressor holding the clutch down. I forgot that I cut the wheels. So, oh, and the clutch is actually still down. I just can't see. There's a handy little device here for depressing brake pedals. Sorry, I shut you off there by mistake. But this is a handy little device for depressing brake pedals. It's basically like a caulk gun, except with a long rod to it. And let me use this end to hook the pedal and pull it up. Now, what's the reason for doing that? What's the reason for depressing the clutch pedal? You depress it, it blocks the chamber, and it doesn't allow all the fluid to come pouring out, because it'll sit there and it'll siphon out the master cylinder up to a point. But if it had a separate clutch master, which I'm not even sure, I think it runs off the actual brake master, but it'll siphon it out to a point and basically run the system completely dry. I don't want to run the clutch master dry. So let's go underneath there and let's bleed this. All right, so now with the pedal in the up position, I'm just going to open up this bleeder. I have in a little bit of a wonky spot. Bleeder wrench is going to be friendly on here or not. I don't think it is. All right, let me get a socket on there. We'll have to do it that way. All right, so let's see if the socket will fit in there, because the starter's kind of in the way there too. And nope, that won't fit either. So what do I do here now? Maybe I should have blended out first. Let me find another style wrench that I might be able to fit on there. All right, so I grabbed a different style bleeder wrench. Get it on there to loosen it up. It's got a different offset. All right, so basically the bleeder is hanging open right now. So what I'm going to do too is I'm going to top off the brake fluid, because the brake fluid itself is what feeds the clutch master. And this rubber hose here, if you could see that, can you see that? You can just about see it. This rubber hose here, this is what actually feeds the master, because the master's down over in there. So, tell you what, I cannot stand when people bring their cars in and just have all these leaves and debris and just leave it there. Get it? Leave it there? Yeah. Alright, let me go find some binder fluid. Hang on. Actually, I should back you up. What I was talking about is on the cowl there. So let me get some brake fluid. And, oh, actually the bleeder just started bleeding. And she's a dripping on the floor. Okay. Okay, so Rob's going to help me bleed this thing out. Rob, will the brake pedal or will the clutch pedal pump up or no?
No.
You want a hook or something to grab it, or you could do it?
Get my foot on there.
Will it pump up or no?
Start to feel pressure.
Okay. All right, hold it to the floor.
Okay.
As you can see, we're using the small wrench because it's just easier to get in here. Oh, there, see all the foam coming out of it? That means it's air. And we're not going to go nuts tightening it with a 12 point. All right, pump it up again.
Down.
Okay. And as you can see, there's a lot of foam in that. And that foam is basically air. All right, go ahead again, pump it up. How's the pedal starting to feel?
Starting to feel better.
All right, good.
It's down.
It's down? Okay. So as you can tell too, the fluid quality is getting better. There's still air in it, but the fluid quality is definitely getting better. All right, pump it up again.
Down.
Okay. Yeah, the fluid is much better. All right, do it again. I think this might be the last time, but we'll see.
Down.
Yeah, see, now you have a nice clean stream. There's no foaming, there's no nothing like that. So, all right, pump it up and tell me how it feels.
Yeah.
Feels good? All right. All right, you can get out. All right, so now all we're going to do is I'm going to snug up the bleeder with this wrench, the 6-point wrench. And I think you saw that. I hope you saw that. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to watch the camera at the same time. All right, let's clean that up. We're going to put the battery in this thing. We're going to top off the fluid in the brake master, because as you see, it got down to the line there. And then we're going to start this thing, make sure everything works. All right, so now let's give a nice healthy douse right there, and we're all good. Yeah, so we can take the light out of here, and we can put the battery in there and get that all ready, and then we're just going to give it the once over before we finish up. So for now, like I said, it did have the lower battery thing, but it does not have a battery hold down. Let me get a battery terminal cleaner because I want to clean off these terminals real quick. All right, so you can get these in a couple different styles. There's one with a brush end and there's one with a metal, like cutting blades almost. I hate those. Don't use those. Use the one with the brush. Yeah, it's good. This one's not as bad. It's good. All right. So let's tighten up those terminals real quick. Now, I've been asked before, why don't you use any like protectant or whatever on the terminals? And I'll tell you why. Because it does absolutely nothing. That's right, you heard me. It does nothing. Do you know where the corrosion comes from? Let me show you a battery I have here. Maybe I can explain it by showing you the battery. The corrosion doesn't come from the outside in. Corrosion comes from the inside out. So what is the protectant going to do? Absolutely nothing. Here you can see on this one, what happens is where the post is coming out of the casing of the battery, acid and vapors and stuff like that is leaching through. That's where the corrosion is coming from. So you could, I mean, if you want to put sealer on it, that's fine. I used to put grease on it and stuff like that. It doesn't help. It doesn't do anything. If you keep it clean, cleanliness is just like maintenance. Keep your batteries terminals clean. Check them every once in a while. Pour hot water over them. Because if you got corrosion, pour hot water over them. It's leaching acid from inside and leaching vapors from inside the battery. That's what's creating the corrosion. So, all right, let's put this up in the air and let's check everything, double check everything, make sure everything's good. So back to underneath the vehicle, just giving it a quick once over, making sure I didn't miss something because, it is possible. Everything looks okay. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Everything's tight. Everything looks good. Oh, yeah, I see. I forgot to put that one bolt in. That one bolt was blocked by the screw jack, so I still got to put that one in. Let me find that. Let's stick that in. And then I still got to put the underside shield here in place. So let me get those done. All right, lower shield's in place. That bolt is in place. I didn't show you before, but I got the rear mount in place, bolts in that. So yeah, we are actually ready to take this thing down and make sure the clutch actually works, which I'm pretty confident it's going to. I don't think the tranny's blown, because when I dropped the fluid in it, it was relatively clean. It was the old fluid. They saved the old fluid and I just put it back in. I usually don't do that on a higher mileage one. I usually like to change the fluid. This way I could see what the fluid looks like, and I just dump it out. But yeah, all right, so I think we're all set to go. All right, so let's try starting it and see what happens. That's a big plus, it moves. So let's take it for a ride. I can't video shifting gears and everything else and have the phone going, camera going, I should say. She did say there was another problem with this, but she doesn't recall, because I guess it's been a while. But she thinks it had something to do with the thermostat. Coolant level's full. I did check that. I don't know. I'm just going to go up the street, make sure all the gears work. 3, 4, 5. I can't tell if it's got 6. Yeah, it looks like it has 6. Looks like there's a 6 down there. If that's the right shift knob, I don't even know. But window's a little dirty. Okay, let's go for a road test and let's see what happens. Well, guess what? Something's wrong with the tranny. Let me see if you can hear this. So we're going to start accelerating. You hear that? And roar, roar, roar. Okay, that's the input bearing. Input bearing is shot, or something along those lines. I got a beeping chime here for a seatbelt. I'm not going to put that on. Let me get this in the shop. All right, so I'm in the shop now. My foot's on the clutch. I'm going to let go of the clutch and listen. You hear that? Now I'm going to hit the clutch. Goes away. Now I'm going to rev it up. In neutral, you don't really hear too much of anything. You don't hear anything really. Okay. So what is that? That is the input shaft bearing that's making that noise. And when it's actually in gear and there's a load on it, it's 10 times worse. Which is kind of amazing. The fluid looked decent. I mean, it was dirty, but it looked decent. I didn't see any metallic particles floating around in it. So, all right, well, still need to do something with the tranny. So what's going to happen now? I don't know. I have no idea. We got to tell the customer, well, now it moves, but there's a problem there. And then what's the other problem with she thought she might need a thermostat or something related to the cooling system. I don't know. Yeah. So, unfortunately, that's going to be it for now. That's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you got something out of that. But yeah, sometimes you just never know. You never know what you're going to get into. So we had an obvious problem with the clutch. That part of it straightened out. But we still got a problem with the transmission. So, all right. Hopefully you got something out of that. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. If you want to share this with your friends, go right ahead. I'd appreciate it. All right. That's it. Have a great day. Keep wrenching.